If you're trying to learn a language, but you can't seem to make it work, the first thing I do with my coaching clients is to work on their mindset. I'm a firm believer that if you don't think that you can learn a language, you can't. My name is Jamie. I'm a language coach. Let's talk about the first mindset blocks that'll stop you from learning a language and what to do instead. The first mindset block that I've seen and I've experienced many times is that language learning is not all or nothing. For example, we tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves when we decide to skip a day. We assume that we have to be perfect if we want to earn the language. Or we think that if we don't prioritize the language in our life 100%, like nothing else matters, then again, we haven't really earned it. Or if we just can't stop getting distracted or can't stop losing motivation, then we must just be bad at learning languages. In fact, absolutely none of these are true. Sometimes you're gonna miss a day. Sometimes you'll have a conversation and the words just won't come out for no reason. And sometimes you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. While these experiences can be really frustrating and really difficult to swallow, remember that they don't mean anything. It's not that deep. If you've committed to studying every single day and then you miss a day, all it means is that you were busy that day, or you were sick, or you were stressed out, or whatever reasoning there was behind it. You don't have to be perfect, and actually you won't be. In order to be a successful language learner, you really have to internalize that idea that there's no such thing as perfection. Because in fact, learning a language is about learning to accept not being perfect and not knowing everything and feel dumb sometimes. I know that it's really easy to see everybody else doing so well and having so much success. And I also know how easy it is to internalize the mistakes and get really anxious about them, stressed out, and think that there's something wrong with me. But for one, you're gonna make mistakes in your language learning sometimes. It's just inevitable. For two, just because somebody is not showing you these mistakes, these difficult days, doesn't mean they don't exist. They definitely do exist. People just don't like to share those vulnerable, sensitive parts of their language learning. And yes, because a lot of people feel a lot of shame about it. Instead, own your mistakes. They're not a bad thing. Actually, they're opportunities for you to improve. They're opportunities for you to see what you can do better, how you can be a better language learner, how you can understand the language better, how you can express yourself better. Your mistakes are opportunities to learn about yourself and your language. So take advantage of them. The next mindset shift I have for you is if something isn't working, let it go. So if you committed to opening up a language app every single day for the entire month, but then you realize that you're motivated to learn the language, but the language app that you're using isn't working for you. You don't enjoy it. It's really frustrating to you. You're not learning the things that you want to do. But you feel like if you drop your commitment to that language app, that means you're dropping your commitment to your language learning as a whole. And that's horrible, right? It's not true. Sometimes parts of our language learning strategy don't work. They can get boring, they can get frustrating, any number of things. A language app that works for you today probably isn't gonna work for you tomorrow or for a different language or in a different scenario. What you have to realize is that if you stick to a language app or course or whatever it is that you know isn't working for you, it's just going to hold you back. Think of it like a relationship. In the short term, it's easier to keep the relationship going even if you're not really that happy. But the longer you spend in that relationship that you don't really like, the longer it takes for you to find a relationship that you do like. And who knows, you might find that relationship or language course tomorrow. But if you're not open to it, then it's not gonna connect. And just because you break up with your girlfriend before you find your next girlfriend doesn't mean you're like failing in your relationships. Sometimes we just need something to change, and it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything about us personally. Speaking of, the next mindset shift that I see language learners need to make all the time is to stop letting language learning resources pressure you. Here's a problem I see a lot of the time. Modern day language apps, yes, like Duolingo, one of their strategies to keep you learning languages day after day, week after week, is to keep you motivated to keep coming back to the app, right? And one of their favorite ways to do that is with streaks. Every day you open the app, you get your 10 XP, and congratulations, not only have you not lost your streak, but it's pushed forward another day, which sounds great in theory, and in some situations it is helpful. But what about the previous situation that we just talked about where a language app isn't working for you? You've been using Duolingo for a while, you've got like a 500-day streak or something crazy like that, but you realize that Duolingo isn't helping you anymore. You're really not getting anything out of it, you're just kind of opening it and playing with it because habit at this point, and you don't want to lose your 500-day streak. End up learning the language strictly out of anxiety and nothing else. When you're in this position, drop it. If you're really proud of the streak, just take a screenshot and then close the app. Turn off notifications, uninstall the app, whatever it is that you need to do. Features like daily streaks can be a helpful addition to a language learning strategy, but it should not be the only reason why you're still coming back to it. Remember, your language tools are meant to support your language learning goals. You do not create language learning goals in order to support your use of an app. These apps are there to support you. Don't give him too much power over your language learning. The next mindset shift that many language learners need is to remember that watching or listening to foreign language media is a completely valid way to learn a language. Problem is, a lot of us are taught to use textbooks to learn a language in school, which is perfectly fine. But then a lot of us go to the extreme and think that using textbooks is the only way to learn a language, which is definitely not, especially not in our modern day. Now, if you enjoy textbooks, that's perfectly great. But there are no situations in which a textbook is the only thing that you need to learn a language. Unless all you want to do is memorize a textbook or take an exam where there's no like conversational skills involved or anything like that. And if you hate textbooks, you don't need them at all. If you want to actually enjoy learning the language and, enjoy the media and the culture and things like that, you can totally ditch the textbooks and lean 100% on YouTube, Netflix, things like that. Oh, and by the way, there's no cheating. Like if you're using subtitles, that's not cheating at all. Honestly, I would prefer you enjoy the language and not learn anything at all than get a lot of textbook smarts, but hate the language. My priority and the priority of my clients is to enjoy the language. This can look like a lot of different things, one of which is media. Music, TV shows, movies, newspaper clippings, books, things like that. The next mindset shift that you need in your language learning is that you can take a break for as long as you want and still not give up. A lot of people avoid taking breaks in their language learning either because A, they don't really see the difference between taking a break and giving up completely, or B, they're afraid that if they lose their stamina, then they're not going to be able to get back to it in the future. I, for one, do not study languages every single day. I'm a busy person, I've got a complex life, and sometimes language learning just kind of falls into the background. I can take a month off and I still consider myself to be consistent. Why is that? It's strictly because my definition of consistent is not studying every single day. It's not even to study every other day. In my personal language learning, I consider consistency being the ability to come back to language learning and improve in the way that I plan to improve when my life allows for it. Because I know in my life that language learning every single day is simply not realistic. I spent a lot of years trying to force that into my life, and every single time it hasn't worked just because that's not how I work. That's not how I function. Eventually, instead of giving up and feeling really guilty about it all the time and just kind of like hating myself about not being able to learn a language correctly, I dropped the guilt. I made the decision to not feel guilty about not learning a language that day or that week or that month or whatever. Instead, I kind of put my language learning to the side, focused on whatever other priorities in my life required my focus, didn't feel guilty about it, came back, and then just went back right into my language learning. I didn't feel shame about giving up. I didn't think that I was being inconsistent or a bad language learner. Instead, I just kind of considered myself to be human. And sometimes being human for me means just surviving. And that's totally valid and okay. So next time you need to take a break from your language learning, don't assume that you're giving up, because it's not giving up. It's just pressing pause. And my next mindset shift for language learners is that just because you're not fluent yet doesn't mean you're not making progress. So many of us get so laser focused on fluency that when we've sat down and studied for 30 days consistently every single day, but then when we try to have a conversation, nothing comes out, we think that there's something wrong with us personally. Now, for one, I hate the word fluent. I avoid using it at all costs. But my point is that so many of us forget to look for the small wins and acknowledge those small wins and realize that you're getting closer and closer and closer to your goals. You just can't see it yet. Whatever your end goal is in the language, whether it's having conversations or perfecting your grammar or whatever the goal is, it doesn't just magically happen. You don't go from where you are now to inserting the right app or the right strategies or whatever, and all of a sudden you'll blink, you'll wake up and you'll have achieved that goal. It's a little bit at a time. It's starting out with confidently being able to introduce yourself and then talk about your family and then talk about your life and then talk about stories in the past, in the future, and all sorts of things. And eventually those small steps end up being your final language goal. But if you cannot recognize those tiny little steps, then you'll be like right before your goal, you'll look around and you won't see that goal. So you will assume that like you'll invalidate all these other small steps. And then you'll see nothing below you and then you'll just assume, oh, it's not working, so may as well just stop. And I get it. It can feel really, really, really frustrating waiting for language learning to just happen or work, which is why it's so important to be able to recognize those small steps. I mean, there's a reason why I dedicate an entire section of my language coaching course, The Method, to teaching my clients how to recognize those small steps and being able to recognize how to know that you're getting to your eventual long-term language goal and not just wasting your time. Now, if you've struggled with any of the mindset shifts I've talked about in this video, I highly recommend you watch this video next, because pointing out these ideas and myths is one thing, but it's important to know where these myths come from. And so in this video, I dive really deep into where a lot of these concepts come from so you can know how to avoid these mindset blocks that will stop you from learning language successfully. So if you enjoyed this video, I will see you in the next one.